Welcome back. This is part 2 of Assess Smarter, Not Harder. In part 1, we shared how to avoid the 5 ugliest mistakes organizations don't know they're making when it comes to their PCI DSS compliance program. In this part 2, we're going to share how to pinpoint and remediate key issues before they become PCI compliance control failures, how to master and improve critical compliance processes to show your maturity in your compliance program, and finally, we're going to leave you with 10 actionable steps that you can implement to create a PCI compliance program your CIO will love. Ready? Let's dive in. So let's talk about pinpointing and remediating key issues before they become control failures and sink your report on compliance. Manually pinpointing PCI DSS requirement failures during a report on compliance or even a self-assessment wastes time, effort, and money. It puts your report on compliance in jeopardy if you can't remediate those failures during the assessment. Automation, such as monitoring and alerting on system components that drift out of compliance, will enable merchants to identify assets that are no longer compliant and remediate based on best security practices that are reliable and repeatable. You want to be able to automate whenever and wherever that it's possible in your environment to help your organization save time, money, and effort. Why? Automation helps reduce PCI compliance fatigue, and that is a real thing. It helps reduce churn, it helps reduce human error, and it improves your sustainability or continuous compliance posture. So you want to endeavor to mature your PCI DSS compliance program. So this means maturing your existing processes. So how mature is your compliance program? Where do you fall in this spectrum? Are you just starting out at level 1? Are you at that place where you're trying to figure out what processes you need? So that's level 1. Or maybe you've started seeing a pattern. Maybe this is your second or even your third year in, and you're starting to see that pattern of where you can have repeatable processes, but your report on compliance is still kind of that fire drill. You're still in a very project-based mentality and not a continuous, this is an everyday thing we need to do. And you might still be stuck in that very highly reactive mode for PCI compliance. As your program grows and matures, you'll move towards level 3 with a more defined level of maturity. Your organization is becoming more proactive, and you've moved from a project-based compliance posture to a program-based compliance posture. And you understand that PCI compliance is continuous. As you mature the program even more, you reach this level 4 state, which is quantitatively managed. You know your critical controls, you know their frequencies, and you know their impact on other controls. So what can you do to implement a PCI compliance program your CIO will love? 1, you want to be able to continuously validate your scope. I can't stress enough how important your scope is to the overall success of not just your annual report on compliance or self-assessment, but it's critical to the success of your continuous compliance program. And you want to be able to follow our 6-step repeatable process that we have available in how to manage your scope without losing your mind. 2, you want to create sustainable and repeatable processes to manage new assets coming into scope, old assets being decommissioned. For example, you want to have a build clean, keep clean process for requirement 2. And if you look at 2.2, it's all about configuration standards. It's all about building clean, but we know that PCI is not a perfect world. So things happen, right? Changes happen, new servers come in, old servers go out. There's changes all the time that's happening to the cardholder data environment. So it's critical that you have not just a build clean process, repeatable process, but that you have a keep clean process. And we go into great detail in our configuration management workshop called Build Clean, Keep Clean, the secret sauce to maintaining continuous configuration PCI compliance. You want to take a look at that because that's going to help you maintain continuous compliance in your configuration management aspect of PCI compliance. You want to be able to automate the collection of evidence based on requirement frequency and allow your PCI sustainability program to feed into that annual report on compliance. Or if you're not a level 1 merchant, you want to be able to feed your sustainability program into your self-assessment process, right? So you are at continuous compliance. You are collecting the evidence based on frequencies that the requirements state that you need to have. And even though a requirement may say that you need to have 3 months or quarterly evidence, you may decide that you want monthly evidence. So you can always do better than what PCI says to do. And remember, PCI DSS is a minimum standard. So if you're already doing something better, continue to do that. You want to be able to use the PCA Resource Center. This is brand new, and it has all of our on-demand workshops. It has guidebooks and checklists and everything that you need to help you build a world-class PCI compliance program. These are resources that I honestly wished I had when I started as a PCI ISA back in 2012. There is a lot of you need to do this, this, and this, but there's not a lot of how do you do this, this, and this, right? And so what I wanted to bring to the PCI community is resources that will help you manage your scope, how to plan, manage, and deliver your report on compliance, how to maintain continuous configuration management, and we have more workshops that are coming. We have a really great one on firewall management that will help ISAs who may not be as technical in the firewall aspects, but we want to be able to give them what I consider cheat sheets so that when they're looking at evidence and assessing evidence, they can bump it up against a cheat sheet and go, wait, these are the secure protocols, these are secure ports, they're using something that's not secure, and I don't have any documentation or business justification for why they're doing this, so I can mark this control not in place. That sort of thing. We want to be able to help you assess better, assess smarter, not harder. So if our resource center isn't enough, we also offer coaching packages. Again, this is something that I wished I had. Instead, I kind of learned PCI by the School of Hard Knocks. And the old, if at first you don't succeed, try again. Yeah, been there, done that. I wished I'd had a coach that I could tap into, whether it was just to pick up the phone and schedule a 1-hour call or to book a block of 5 hours that I could use when I needed that coach, or even a 10-hour block if I needed more in-depth training to get up to speed, because when you go through ISA training, it doesn't cover all of the how to implement PCI in your organization. And that is something that I am trying to close the gap on. And again, if you decide that you want to go with a coaching package with payment card assessments, you get both me and Lisa. You can work with just me. You can work with just Lisa. You can work with both of us. It's okay. It's all good. We're happy to work with you. But when you do book a coaching package, the 5-hour or the 10-hour, you also get lifetime access to the Resource Center at no additional charge. Oh, and I should point out, our Resource Center is a lifetime access, meaning you're not limited to a 90-day subscription. You you don't have to pay an annual subscription. It's one fee and you're in. And until you decide you no longer want to do PCI, right? And you want to go have an umbrella drink at the beach because you've retired or something, you'll always have access to our Resource Center. Now, if you're an organization looking for some in-house capability or to augment what you have, the resources that you do have, we do have consulting services, Lisa and I would be happy to work with you and happy to help you implement a world-class PCI program. We can gap assess for you. We can provide on-site training for you. And we can really, sit down and work with you on how to plan, manage, and deliver a report on compliance or self-assessment. We really believe that the more organizations we can help, the failure rate across the landscape will begin to decrease at a rapid rate. Right now, 57% of organizations can't maintain compliance once the ink's dry on their attestation of compliance. So we're purpose driven. We want to help improve the merchant landscape and the payment security ecosystem. The seventh most important thing that you can do is you can implement Polaris PCA. Polaris PCA is built upon 20 plus years of experience between me and Lisa running a PCI compliance program at a Fortune 100 company and level 1 merchant. So inside this tool that's easy to implement and even easier to use, you have 40,000 hours of experience that's built into this amazing application that has an automated workflow. It includes all of the PCI DSS requirements. It has the testing procedures. It has the guidance. It has the evidence. So from the reporting instructions that QSAs have to work off of, we've included all of the evidence that you need to provide. In addition, it has all of our best tips and our best practices to help you save time, money, and effort during your report on compliance or your assessment. It also includes checklists, things that you want to be able to check off that you've done X, Y, and Z. It also has dependencies. So some requirements are dependent on other requirements being in place before that particular requirement can go in place. So we know how the requirements work together, and we show this in Polaris PCA so that you know what requirements have dependencies. And this also shows that if you have a requirement that does have dependencies, that if one is not in place, that it could impact the other 4 or 5 that are dependent upon it, for those to also not be in place. So we have all of that built into this amazing, amazing, amazing application that's easy to use and even easier to implement. So with that, there you have it. What's the first thing that you want to implement to make your PCI life a little easier, maybe a little less stressful? And more importantly, how can we help you assess smarter, not harder? As always, feel free to contact us at support@Payment Card Assessments, and feel free to just subscribe to our YouTube channel. We hope to bring you more important information around PCI DSS, especially as the transition to version 4 is, well, we've got 13 months now, or 12 months. This is March. So we have 12 months before version 4 becomes effective, and we want to be able to help you meet the requirements that you need to have in place for version 4.0. As always, thanks for joining us, and subscribe to our YouTube channel.